Hello and welcome to episode 61 of the Boot Nerds podcast. JayMike, how's life?
Life is life is life. Life is boring at the moment, stuck inside and, but under the circumstances, I'm all right. How are you, my man?
I'm doing great. I'm like yourself, just isolating myself inside my house, trying not to go crazy.
And in your cars.
Yes, you can isolate yourself inside of a car.
Yeah. See, that I also have a car problem, but that's the fact that I don't have as many cars to have problems with. So I also have those. But
not always a bad problem.
Not always a bad problem, no. I'd like to point everyone's attention to Josh's name in today's episode. I enjoyed coming up with that quite a lot. So just go show it some love by dropping a like on the video. If you think the name sucks, drop a like anyway, because we're all fun and games. And also, if you have any questions you'd like us to answer in the next episode, you should do that in the comment section right down below. Now, Josh, basically today we're going to talk about how we're kind of dealing with this whole madness that's going on throughout the world. But we also figured we're going to talk a little bit about the origins of soccer reviews for you and Unisport, and how we got into this whole thing of what we're doing, basically earning money by talking about football boots for God knows how long, how many years we've been at it. And also then we're going to talk about something quite interesting that actually came from one of the questions that were left in the comment section. So if the question is good enough, it's actually going to turn into a full episode. So there you go. But let's start off talking about this whole life under lockdown, because it is a bit, obviously everyone is affected, but I don't know about you, how it's going on with you over there, because I don't know how much you go to the pitch compared to us, but for us, we can't do, most pitches are closed. We have one pitch left that's still open that we can go to here and then. But it's just it doesn't feel right. So the stuff that we've shot a lot of stuff ahead, thankfully, so we had a lot in the bank. But it's kind of difficult for us to go out to the pitch every week, several times, to just shoot content. So it's different, definitely.
Yeah, I mean, going to the pitch, it's technically springtime now, and it's just becoming warm enough for the most part to where you would actually be able to go to the pitch. Although this time of year, you're typically not allowed on, and especially right now, they would not want you on either. Obviously, indoor facilities, which is kind of what you have to do here in the wintertime, that's all been closed down for a little while now. So not much you can do with that. I think what's a little bit different for me versus you is I run SR4U for the most part out of my basement. That's pretty much my office. So it hasn't affected me too much in regards to the content that I regularly produce, but my daily routines have definitely been thrown off a little bit. And I think that for me, because I do work from home, and I think you were telling me a little bit about this earlier, last week anyways, that when you work from home, it's nice to get out of the house because you kind of get away from it all. Yeah. As much as I love football boots and being around them all day, it does get to a point where you need a break. And when you're stuck at home, that break kind of doesn't come.
Exactly.
So, yeah, it's been... Go ahead.
You can't go to the gym and stuff. I know you work out quite a lot.
Yeah, that's the start to my day almost every single day. And lately I've not been able to do that. And I mean, you can work out at home. For those of you guys that have been following me on Instagram, I've been posting some of my workouts in my Instagram story, and honestly, it's a lot of stuff that I would typically almost never do, but given the situation, I kind of have to work with what I have to work with. And so far it's good. The first week I have to say was really rough because I don't know, there's something about being at a gym that's very motivating to me, but when you're in your own basement, just with some weights, it's a lot less motivating. So the first week my body really felt like, oh, this is not cool, but I'm kind of getting more and more used to it now. It's kind of becoming the new norm, which I guess is a little bit sad to say, but I don't know. I'm not making it work.
Which is the most important thing. And, if you haven't already seen Josh doing these things, you go and check it out because his, some of the things, some of the things you do, it's clear that, you haven't done it for a while. What was the one-legged squat you do with the balancing?
Pistol squat. It's harder than it looks. Try it. All I would recommend is try to do it yourself before making fun of me.
Yeah, I'm not going to record it at least. Because it looks really difficult. Just shooting the video we did with Unisport, you know, how to train at home and stuff. I could feel that I've been, you know, not playing football for a while, just activating those muscles again. I was sore the day after. You know, I've been running a lot and stuff and you know, doing well, but it's different. Your body just adapts really quickly to not doing anything. It's crazy.
Yeah, you get this kind of lazy mentality. It's not good. Like, I've been seeing so many people just posting memes about my life is sleeping, getting up to eat, and then going back to sleep, and then getting up to eat, and then going back to sleep, and just repeating that all day long every single day. And yeah, you kind of get in that mentality of like just sitting around all day long. And like there's like we live in the age of the internet now, so there's always something to watch, there's always something to do online, but most of that requires you just sitting still in one place. And I mean, if you're not paying attention to it, you're sitting around watching something for like 6 to 8 hours a day, which is it's a lot. It's a lot.
Do you also have this thing with that now, you know, okay, it's under lockdown and now you really have time to do some of the stuff that you didn't have time to do before. And I don't know if it's the same for you, but I'm basically being a little bit stressed out about how I'm working as much as before, really trying to get the wheels spinning at Unisport because, you know, no one's really buying as many football products as before because no one's playing football, right? And, you know, everyone's at their desk now and, you know, so it's just, there's a lot going on. And I think the whole mentality of now thinking, oh, we're working from home, there's a little bit more time to, you know, play some FIFA, go for a run and, you know, read a book, something like that, you know, actually speak to my girlfriend once in a while, you know, and there's still so much to do to just make sure that everything keeps turning, right? So, you know, I haven't really done much more chilling than I'm normally doing.
Yeah, but I think that's, you know what? Keeping yourself busy is a good thing. Yeah. And like my number one task that I wish to accomplish before this is all over, and hopefully it's over after the next month. We'll see what happens with that. But I really want to get the SR4U boot room back in order. Mm-hmm. And I had a day where for 2 hours, I made a good chunk of progress. Unfortunately, I have not lasted more than like 20 minutes per day in terms of continuing that steady progress. But it's like you said, you kind of find that you want to like do something rather than just sit and do nothing. And that's something that I always manage to figure out that I want to do is never cleaning the SR4U boot room. So eventually that day will come where I have nothing else to do but that. That day just hasn't come yet.
And I honestly, you know, you say it's going to come, but I have a really hard time seeing, you know, the day that comes is when hell freezes over. Because, you know, I think just, you know, the whole organizing thing, I've had the same thing with my shelf for a while. And one day I simply just had to pick up myself and tell me, you know, Jay, now you have to go down. You have to spend 5 hours just organizing the living Jesus out of that shelf. Because even though I had 2-3 hours in a workday where I could like dedicate time for it, I never got around to doing it because then, I just had to answer a few emails and all that stuff. And it never happened, you know?
Yeah. I think we've talked about this personally before, but I'm a very motivated person for a lot of things. And I think people
just
recognize
not
that.
cleaning up.
Just when it comes to cleaning up, I'm just like, no, I'm out of here. There's so many things that I would rather do besides organize. And it's funny because like at this moment right now, I can't say that I know where everything is. It's in a giant pile. But like even when like you would walk into my office, and I've shown you some tours of my office in some of the states that it's been in, and I know where everything is inside of this what seems to just be a giant mess. But I know where everything is, so it's organized in my head. It's just not organized in real life.
Fair enough. But then you don't need to organize it. Then everything is fine.
It's perfect, right? So,
right. So status is that if you when are you gonna have this finished? By which episode?
Episode. Oh, jeez. I don't want to make any promises. 70? I don't want to make. I'm waiting because I keep posting in my story like the status of the basement, and people haven't seemed to be noticing yet that there's been very little progress over the last maybe 10 days, but eventually they're going to start noticing. So I'm not making any promises on this podcast and no public promises at all. But I'm saying like hopefully within the next 2 weeks, it'll be almost done.
Okay, so by episode 64, it's sorted.
By episode, I guess so. Yeah.
We let's take a boot room tour in episode 64. Then that sounds good.
we might do that. And just for the record, because a lot of people are saying, "Oh, make a video out of it. Just do a time lapse." Like I would have to do like a 24-hour time lapse to do it all in one shot. It would take. I don't think people understand what a monumental effort this is. It's not just a matter of putting the boxes on shelves. It's putting the boxes on shelves in places where it makes sense and you're going to be able to find stuff after the fact, right? So
organizing is
and that's
the
other
easy.
thing. When it's that many too, like you could work on this whole section and you think you're good, and then you forgot about this whole other 25 boxes that have to fit in that same spot, and then you have to basically start over. So yeah,
this is why I don't have my boots in boxes, because I just know that if that was the case, I would be screwed, basically. So yeah. Okay, 64, we'll come back to that. But going with the other direction we wanted to talk about in this podcast was how on earth we got into this whole mad situation where we have so many boots that we basically can't find the time to organize them and have them in an organized system. So we've heard a little bit about how you got into to this whole SR4U thing, working at a soccer store and all that stuff. But can you take us through once more so everyone gets it?
Yeah. So when I was 15, I was 16. 16, I got my first job at a soccer store, and I always loved football boots, and I always had like 2 or 3 pairs because I made it a priority. I didn't really spend money on anything else. So I always had 2 or 3 pairs of boots, and I was playing a lot, and I would tear through boots pretty frequently. I think like a lot of people do when you're playing every single day, right? So when I started working at the store, and part of the motivation for working at the store was, hey, I'm going to be able to get a discount on all of these boots, so I'll still be able to buy them all. I had every intention of blowing every paycheck at the store, but I was going to be able to get more for my money because I was getting them at a discount, right? And the discount, honestly, not that great for those that are wondering. Either way, when you have access to basically buy anything you want, I wanted to seek out a little bit more information. I was looking for basically a review of what I was about to drop $200 or $300 on. And what I came to realize, and this is kind of like the very early days of YouTube where nobody was making videos on football boots, period. There was just a little bit of like written content on the internet. And all the written content that I could come across as far as reviews were concerned they weren't really reviews. They were just kind of bogus, almost like a commercial for the Nike or the Adi boot rather than an actual opinion, right? So it was at that point that I decided, as more or less a hobby than anything, let's start writing reviews. I started soccerreviewsforyou.com, started making videos. And if you go back, all you have to do on any channel, and I recommend doing this on the Unisport channel as well, go to the channel, go to videos, and then you can sort it from oldest to newest. And you can go watch those early videos, and they're rough.
Don't do it.
The original plan for me in SR4U was that I was never going to show my face on camera. I was never going to talk. It was just going to be anonymous, and all the content was going to be in the written reviews on my website. And eventually that changed pretty quickly. But you can also tell that I had zero experience on camera. I had zero experience in anything that I was doing. All I knew is that I had very strong opinions on these boots, and I wasn't afraid to share them because I had no reason not to, right?
I just remember, I just remember that classic Josh early days haircut, with the long.
That's called wake up in the morning.
That's right.
That's all. That's all I was.
I actually remember, back in the day when you had this thing with never showing your face on, because that came after like 2 or 3 years, right? Maybe not that long. But
it might have been a full year at least until.
Because I was a little bit confused, because there was also this guy from like a football store in Chicago, I think, who did videos on new boots with like the same angle, just showing them, turning them in his hand. And I kind of initially confused you with him. So I thought you were the same guy. I thought, it's the hands guy. And basically that all changed when you then started showing your face. That was back in your old bedroom, right?
Yeah, that
Old
was like,
office.
so basically what would happen is I'd have like my computer set up on my desk and whatever else I had on my desk. And then when it came time to film a video, it was like wipe everything off the desk, record your video, and then reorganize it so I could have, like, I didn't know how to edit. I didn't know how to do anything. I was still in high school. So it was kind of just a hobby thing. And it's funny because I think we both actually started doing this right around the same time.
When did you start?
2000. I think my first video was in February 2011.
Okay.
Maybe.
Yeah, I think, back when we started, but the thing was that we did most of this stuff in Danish initially. So we didn't go full English on YouTube until 2013. But I think we probably started around the same time. I mean, I got into Unisport in 2008, where they basically, just like you, I was buying, spending a lot of my money on football boots. And, I searched for bargains and, on sale. And, I just been buying through Unisport because it was, and still is, the specialty retailer for football boots to go to, because they just knew, they had the knowledge, they had the passion, and I felt, I identify with that. And one day they put out a blog post saying, do you want free football boots? And of course I wanted free football boots. So basically the thing was that you could apply and become a written product reviewer, and then you would obviously test the boots, review them, send them in and all that stuff. And a lot of people applied, and I was selected in a panel of 5 people, most of which were like high-level football players. Some of them were pros. And then there was me, like playing Sunday league football. But they seemed to appreciate that I had the passion and I could write. So I knew about football boots. And then, just started from there. I started writing more and more reviews and became kind of the go-to guy for the reviews, because I just churned them out and asked for a new pair of boots and just, it kept going. And all of a sudden they reached out and said, look, we want to start this web TV thing. So the old CEO of Unisport, called Philip, great man, by the way, he was the presenter, and he asked me if I would, give some input and write some of the scripts and stuff for the show, and I did. And then I was invited on as a guest on the show, and I think at one point he just realized, he doesn't have the time for it. After all, he's the CEO. So he just asked if I wanted to take over, and then part-time became full-time in 2011, and we just took it from there. And, as Josh said, you can go in and see some of the first videos on YouTube. But unless you speak Danish, it's going to be, it's going to look terrible. I look very young, and also you won't understand a thing, which might be funny. But yeah, then it's just taking off from there. and like yourself, I'd done a little bit of like home editing, and I made music back then, so I had like a basic understanding of how you build a video, how you build with music, and had some basic Photoshop skills. But I was like, I didn't know. I dropped out of university to do it, so like it was just trial and error. I guess that's the best way to put it.
Yeah, I think that's the one piece of advice I'll give to people just in life in general, because I'm sure you get the same question as how did we get to where we are now doing what we want to do? Because I think there's a lot of people that they have this dream of they want to review football boots, or the aspiration of just getting free football boots in general is a very cool concept to people. And there's nothing that you can tell someone or tell some retailer just out of the blue where they're going to hand you 10 free pairs of boots. Like you have to actually figure it out and do something. There has to be some kind of value that you offer whatever brand you want to work with if you want them to work with you. So
exactly,
I don't know. Again, I feel like both of us started it in similar ways, in that we had this passion for football boots and figured out some way for that passion to become somewhat of a reality, in terms of not even necessarily a job where I think we're both at points in our lives where we probably never expected to be back when this first started.
No.
Right? But it was that willingness to work very hard and just figure it out at that point in time that got us to the point where we are now, right? And had we never done that, like if you told me 10 years ago that, hey, this would be your job one day, like I wouldn't have believed you, right? But through pure determination and really hard work, I hate to say the word grinding every single day because it's such a cliche at this point, but that's pretty much what it came down to in terms of building both of these up to where we are now.
And that's also the thing people got to realize. I hate using the word influencers, but becoming an influencer in anything isn't just something you do overnight. I mean, we've both worked on this for 9, 10, in my case, 12 years. I've been at Unisport for 12 years. And it's not, it doesn't come overnight, and you have to really want it. I mean, I've spent more than a third of my life doing this. So it's not just about, going out there and say, oh, it would be nice to get free football boots. You got to want it. You got to, dedicate yourself to it. And it's cost a lot. Of course it has. But I think it's the drive and the grind and the willingness to just, make no compromises in getting there and because you love it. I think that's what people should take away, whether it's in football boots or music or I don't care what it is. You just have to understand that nothing comes for free and without hard work. I know several people have said this, but it's actually true.
Yeah. And let me just also say, I'm all for chase your dreams. That's great. Do that. If you're passionate about something and you feel like that can one day become your job, definitely work towards that. But I think that there's this mentality now, especially because of social media, where people think it's a good idea I have a job, I'm going to drop everything that I'm doing and I'm going to pursue this thing 100%. That's typically not a good idea because there is a strong chance that if the ultimate goal is to review football boots for a living, that might not ever catch on. So I think both of us, you working for Unisport, still getting a paycheck, doing what you did, a little bit of a different situation than me, but I was working actual jobs and doing a lot of one-on-one training on the side and a bunch of different other things to basically fund what was my passion in SR4U that eventually got to a point where I could stop all that other stuff and do this full time. But that was the first 4 or 5 years of SR4U. I was not doing that full time. That was just a spare time thing while I worked all of these other jobs to support what, I mean, I viewed it as a business for a long time, but it ultimately wasn't actually making money for a long time.
Right. And I get it. And maybe also on the other side of things, we were lucky to be in a period of time where social media influencers weren't really a thing. There wasn't, as you said, there wasn't much competition. Not that we got everything handed to us because we were the only ones out there, because there were other people. I think there was just less people. It was easier to stand out by doing something well consistently, and it's just different these days because everyone wants to be something with social media, be an influencer, and it honestly takes a ton of work and a ton of dedication, especially these days, to stand out. So that, I think, I consider myself lucky that we got started back then and kind of rode the wave as YouTube and social media grew bigger.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with you on that. I think being early in whatever category that you're trying to start means something. But at the same time, I also feel like both of us especially played a big role in this category on YouTube in general.
Of course. Yeah.
Right? I hate to say that we're pioneers in football boot reviews, but in terms of video form football boot reviews, we were more or less the first couple of guys to do it and do it well. And I think that ultimately is what helped both of us get to this point, is that not just that we were making videos on a regular basis on football boots, it's that people really saw the quality of the content.
And I don't think that we wouldn't have been around now if we had produced bad content and, if we weren't credible. So that's another thing that you need to keep in mind, that you need to stay true to what you feel is the right thing to do. You need to stand up for your opinion and be real. That's what people want. And I guess,
I think we can both say, I know I can say this for sure. No, we can definitely both say this, is that we've both been offered money to say good things about products that we didn't think were good. And we didn't do it.
Exactly.
And it's that simple, right? And when you have an audience, when you have a certain amount of influence, there are going to be companies that are willing to pay to use that influence, but it's really up to you to, I think your influence is only as important as your credibility is. And if you lose your credibility, then the influence is meaningless. So it's very, very important to make sure that everything that you put out there is truly what you think and truly what you believe, when I think all of our credibility is based on opinion. And people trust our opinion, so we have to make sure that everything we say is truthful and honest and what we actually think.
And that's the thing. Would you go out and read and buy a product based off of a review from a guy that you know he might just be saying this because he took payment from the company who made the product? I wouldn't.
No, definitely
not. That was kind of the story and a little bit of discussion around our roles. I mean, we've been around for a while. I plan on to stay here for a good while longer until my legs fall off, and we can hopefully talk about football boots for a good while. The funny thing is to see what happens, and maybe this is taking things off topic, but just to see what happens after. In 10 years, where is football boot reviews? Like who are the next guys? I know it sounds kind of big headed, but who's next? Who's coming up next?
It's a great question, right? I don't know. I feel like a lot of I don't personally watch a lot of YouTube in the soccer football category. I have to be honest.
Do you watch Unisport though?
I do. I watch every Unisport video. I leave a like on every video. It's my favorite YouTube channel besides my own. But
that was the right thing to say.
I don't know. A lot of the content that I've seen from other YouTubers honestly, I hate it when people call me a YouTuber. I really don't like it. Because I feel like this perception of when someone calls you a YouTuber, they think that you walk around with a camera for 5 minutes and then edit a vlog of you going to the bathroom and then eating your dinner, and that's your video, and you're making money from doing that. Because I don't know.
Can I call you a businessman then?
I feel like that's more along the lines of what I've become through all of this than a YouTuber. But where was I even going with this?
I have no idea. I have no idea.
All right, then we'll just leave it at that.
Okay.
Oh yeah, no, I know. I remember. Yeah, I think the people, the YouTube footballers now seem to be. It's trending more towards like entertainment stuff rather than.
I'm thinking also more like towards F2 freestylers than Unisport and SR4U.
Yeah, and again, I've seen a little bit of their stuff. I don't know them that well. I don't know them at all. I don't want to say I don't know them that well, but I've not seen a ton of their stuff. But I have seen them talk about football boots here and there, and it's more commercial type review than it is actual opinion type review. There's a lot of what I've seen.
And to be fair to them, they're not boot heads. They don't, of course, they like to have different football boots, but it's not like they don't care as hard as we do. And I think they must think that we're kind of nerds, which we are. So that's fair. but I would like to, hear people's thoughts on this. Where will football boot content and, the hardcore nerd content, where will that be in 5-10 years? And, what's going to come after Unisport and Soccer Reviews for You and the Boot Nerds podcast, of course, which is your most credible source to all things football boots. Shameless plug. Let us know in the comment section right down below. And maybe if you think it's time to get rid of us, let us know who should come and take over. But before we spend too long on this, Josh, I just wanted to pick up on a couple of questions because we had a really, really good question that I wanted to discuss from Team Guys, who is a longtime podcast listener and viewer. So big up for that. But he had an interesting idea that said, I'd like to see an episode where you talk about the forgotten boots nobody really cared about from the past, like the Nitrocharge, UX Acuro, evoTOUCH, Bazzara, that stupid Ace Tekkerz, Bomber Finale and all the others, and discuss whether or not they deserve to be forgotten. So I think we should just run quickly over boots that were forgotten and discuss, what was up and should they just stay in the past.
Yeah, and you know what? We thought about this a little bit before this podcast started. And for the first minute, we're both like, maybe there's not that much. But then the more and more we both thought of it, there's actually quite a few really good football boots that people have completely forgotten about. And I'll let you start because I feel like you have a pretty lengthy list, more so than I do. But I do have some favorites.
I'm gonna go with the Nike Super Ligeras. Now this was a boot that came back in, I believe, 2000 and 2007-ish, 2000. Nah, was it that 2007, 2008? It was back in those days. It's a long time ago, but actually a great football boot. It wasn't as high priced as the Jumbo Legends back then, but it gave you a really nice kangaroo leather upper. It gave you like this. It was basically made so you could also use it on AG. Had a really nice outsole, was, as the name suggests, really light, and just, had a really low pointy toe box and an overall very elegant feel. And I know a lot of guys who saw this as a lighter, cheaper alternative to the Jumbos back then, which I believe it was out at the same time as the Jumbo Legend 3s, if I'm not mistaken.
I want to say you're right. Yeah, it was like Legend 3, Legend 4 time is when that was available.
I think it was Legend 3, definitely. But just a fantastic looking boot, and I think I actually just bought this the other day, and I can't wait to go out and play in it, because it is super comfortable and still light enough to be something I'd wear in 2020. So I think it was. I don't think it should be forgotten. I don't think it should stay forgotten, because it's actually it's a great little football boot that deserves more recognition than it gets.
Really good looking as well. It's kind of like the Nike Premier before the Nike Premier, but better quality than the Nike Premier. Definitely. I think there were people arguing, and again, back then it was pretty much just forums where you had to get this information in terms of other people's opinions. But there was a lot of people that would argue that the Super Ligera was better than the actual inline Tiempo.
Yeah, I would agree.
Which I think it's fair.
Did you go on Big Soccer back then? Do you remember?
Yeah. That was the place back then. I don't know if is that still around?
It's still around. Sure. Yeah, I don't think people really post there anymore, but it's still around.
Yeah. I have a weird one, and I don't think you've ever played in these, but I have the Under Armour Blur Carbon 3, specifically the kangaroo leather upper variant, which has really thin, super soft leather. One of the, I would argue, the best boot Under Armour ever made. It has this weird burrito style tongue, which is typically not something that I like, but it works well on this. It's got this weird angular cut to the heel area. It's got some carbon fiber worked into the spine of the sole plate. And then it has this really unique, it technically looks like carbon fiber, but it's just carbon fiber for the sake of looks. But it's got this like side blade / wing for the sake of reinforcing this side of the upper with this firmer synthetic material as well. And it was just a remarkably responsive boot with a stud pattern that I would say is kind of very similar to what we have now with the PUMA Future, actually. So very well rounded, and it's probably the first football boot that Under Armour made that was actually good.
It looks amazing, to be honest. I'd really like to try a pair one day, and I've heard mostly you raving about it for a while now. Yeah. Very, very good. And it's something I would like to try even in 2020. So should it stay forgotten? No, I don't think so. Another boot, Umbro Stealth Pro, which it was mostly forgotten. If you go on YouTube, search Unisport Umbro Stealth Pro, there will be me in a chicken suit dancing. Because it was the tagline back then went, "Are you fox or chicken?" So the idea was that the boot was the fox and I was the chicken, and it was coming to eat me. So that was a level back then. But a really, really good boot, very soft upper, actually from Teijin, and had just a very responsive outsole, as you can see. So really elegant feeling on the ball, very, very comfortable, and had this almost like airy padded sensation. And just one of those boots that I maybe for nostalgic reasons, I really remember as being something special. Would I wear it today? Probably not. It's a little bit too heavy, but it definitely didn't get as much recognition as it should. And then Umbro went and screwed everything up with Stealth Pro 2s. So
that was, what year was that, Jay? 2009, 10, 11?
I think this was 2011.
11.
10 or 11, yeah.
Okay, because I remember... this is very early days of SR4U. I remember seeing them online, and I could only get them online. But at that point, because I was buying every single product with my little soccer store paycheck, I had to prioritize buying like the new Mercurials, which was at the time the Superfly 2 was like $400. So I blew my whole SR4U budget on those and passed on the Umbros. But I always really wanted to try them. Never actually got to try a pair.
It's a nice pair of boots. 2010.
Yeah. Okay, I got a weird kind of obscure one that I really liked, and these aren't that old, but definitely forgotten. And it was the Crazy Light pack from Adi in 2015. 2015, specifically the Nitrocharge and the Predator Instinct.
They were good.
Really good boots. I thought that those were both better variants than what the actual boots were, which is rare because I feel like most of the time when any of these brands come out with a variant of an inline model, it's always like compromised in some way.
Well, Adidas have actually, in my opinion, been pretty good at that. The Crazy Lights were good. SLs, which we're going to get back to, have been very good. But go on.
Yeah, no, I remember I really, really enjoyed the Preds and the Nitrocharge. And the Pred I like so much, but only came in this weird like white and pink color. And I was very against wearing pink boots, but I liked them so much that I wore pink boots for like probably 2 months straight.
Wow, rascal.
Yeah.
evoTOUCH. Forgotten, definitely. Should it stay forgotten? Probably. But it was actually the concept of the boot was really good. For some reason, it seemed to me that it was very bulky and I never really fully took to it, but it had it had this idea of just having an inner sock and then leather on top of it. And it actually worked really well. And the leather was soft.
Yeah.
And basically, it had
a good boot.
Yeah, it's a good boot. But should it stay forgotten? You know, I don't miss it. It looked cool, but I don't really. I think they did well to get rid of it and replace it with.
I don't know. Don't you think that the Puma King Platinum is kind of a lot of that boot, just in a more simple form?
That's a fair shout, actually. Yeah.
Maybe not. The leather was a little bit better, I think, on the evoTOUCH, but
it was. Yeah, it definitely was, and it's a good looking boot, but it's just the whole construction around the heel. I never took to that, but
yeah.
And
you know, while we're on the topic of Puma, and I think we might have talked about this in the last episode, but the Puma King Finale SL.
Yes, the yellow one.
No, not the yellow one. Not the yellow one. The one before.
The other one.
The regular
black and
leather
red.
one. The one that was leather. Yeah, it came in black and red. It came in white with black and like an orange pinstripe. There's like a couple colorways. Super thin leather. It still had the look of the regular King Finale at the time. Just minus the tongue. It had a synthetic tongue instead, so no fold over flap. And then the sole plate looked the same, but was actually a completely different, thinner plastic material where they took a ton of weight out of the boot. And it was just very lightweight. The only problem was that the leather was so thin and so soft that they would just kind of overstretch after about a month of play. But really cool boots. I remember those quite fondly.
Do you remember these?
I do remember those.
Oh my God, oh my days.
Yeah.
11 Pro 2 SLs.
Yeah. That's a funny one that when that came out, I thought that boot was going to just do so well. And I don't remember it selling all that well, but the reason why I thought it was going to do so good is because everybody loved the leather F50 Adizero so much. And what I had been saying, and I think you probably said the same thing on the Unisport channel back then, was that the leather F50 Adizero is great for what it is, but it's a very compromised leather football boot in the grand scheme of things. So when they gave us like an actual, it's got the F50 Adizero sole plate and stud pattern, the sprint frame, and then like a proper kangaroo leather upper, I'm like, oh, this is the leather F50 everyone was waiting for. But because it didn't have F50 on the upper anywhere, people were a lot less interested for whatever reason.
This is ridiculously underrated. If this came, I mean, if I could only wear this for the rest of my playing days, I would actually be okay. It's that good. That and the Adipure 4 SLs, fantastic football boots. Sits right in between, you know, that lightweight speed boot sensation and the comfort, stability, elegance you get from leather. Very, very underrated.
Okay, my next pick is from Mizuno, and it is the Supersonic Wave. 1, 2, or 3. I think they were all pretty good. I think 1s and 2s maybe is the ones I would lean towards the most. But that I remember is one of the first football boots that I put on my feet and really recognized, having worn quite a few boots up until that point, that wow, these are so much more comfortable than everything else that you could buy. And the touch was great. The sole plate felt really good. I just really liked, in terms of like a simple boot that has a lot of technology packed into it, that to me, it took the Tiempo concept that Nike's kind of going with now and maybe did it a little bit better way back, 2012, 13?
Was
long
that
time
late?
ago, Supersonic. I think it was that long ago, yeah.
No, I think, was it that late? I thought it was earlier.
Oh, you think it was earlier than that?
I think it was like 2010.
I'm not sure. Maybe the first one.
Yeah. I think it was. Anyway, it was a good boot. I'm just asking Google here because I did a review of the Wave Supersonic in 2010 in Danish, by the way. Yeah. Great
that was
boot.
a long time ago.
Yeah. Another pick, another SL boot, X15 SL. Very, very underrated boot. For me, this is kind of the the X99.1 of the X15 generation. Really, really soft upper, lightweight. None of that extra ball that was on the X15 that made it kind of bulky. It was just, this is what the X should have been from the get-go. And it was looking really cool too. I hated the outsole. Probably didn't communicate it as much as I would have liked to back then, but it was what it was. But a really, really underrated football boot. As you can see, it's really dirty because I've worn it a lot. So definitely shouldn't be forgotten. But speed boots have moved on. So
yeah, you know what, Jay? That's probably the last. That's the most. Could you argue that that's the most F50 like non-F50 boot since the F50?
Alongside the X99.1, yes, I would definitely say that.
Yeah, okay, X99.1. Yeah, that's fair. What? I just forgot my next pick.
I have another one ready. Okay.
Okay, no, let's do that one. That's an interesting one. Those didn't even cross my mind.
Pele Sports Trinity, completely forgotten. It was basically whoever took over Pele Sports took over Nomis, who was that. It was an Australian company started by a guy called Simon. So he spelled his name backwards, got Nomis, and made these really high quality leather boots, but they never sold. Do you remember Nomis?
I didn't know the story behind the name. That's crazy.
Yeah, he made the Spark and stuff, like had shock leather, and it was actually, he did some good stuff. He was like the leather guru at Adidas, and then he went to found his own company, but didn't go well. Pele Sports came in and took over, used Pele's name, and made the Trinity, which had 3 studs on the bottom, really lightweight outsole, and this super, super thin upper. They were really not very durable, but lacked stability like hell on the heel, but very interesting and super interesting lightweight speed boot that would be great to see in like a more modern way today.
Yeah, I really like those. That funny story with those, and I don't know if you remember. Maybe it was a little bit. Did Unisport carry Pele boots? Probably.
Yeah,
did, right?
We did.
Okay. Well, what I remember back then is that I think they were the first brand to really try to utilize all of the influencers, if you want to call them that, on the internet. So when they launched Pele Trinity, they sent them. If you had an Instagram account with like more than 3 posts about a football boot, they were going to send you some Pele Trinities for free. So they probably sent out hundreds of these things. And because I remember posting my video, and it was pretty rare at that point still for other people to have videos of football boots so early after the release, but everybody got a pair. And like, they're good boots. So I think everybody wore them and like, oh, these are really amazing. But then it ended up backfiring because about a month later, when all the boots started falling apart, all of these influencers trying to make their way in terms of getting some notoriety posted these videos of, oh, look, my Pele Trinity's broke. And then after a month, everyone was just too afraid to buy them anymore because they thought they were going to break after a month, which most of them would.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just remember that being really funny.
I agree. But interesting boot, but probably better that it stays forgotten because it snapped like that.
Yeah. Which you have the one I was going to talk about right there in your hands, which is the Adidas Primeknit 2.0. I believe that was the follow-up to the original Samba Primeknit.
It was. Only this didn't suck.
Not a great boot, yeah.
Yeah.
But
this was
Primeknit
awesome.
2.0, yeah, really good. So this was the first time we saw, and it's a funny one because when Primeknit first came out, it was a completely different technology to Flyknit in that it was a more simple knit pattern where the structure from the upper came from plastic within the yarn. It was like plastic infused yarn, and then they would apply heat to certain places to make it harder and more structured and then leave certain parts soft. Samba Primeknit 1 is a perfect example of that. It just ended up feeling like, it looked like knit, felt like plastic.
Yeah.
Crap. Not very good. Then with Primeknit 2.0, they completely changed directions and pretty much, I don't want to say copied Flyknit, but it was a lot more Flyknit-esque in terms of its construction. a lot softer, a lot more sock-like. And that boot's it's really good. I think it's one of the best executions of an off-centered lacing system that we've ever seen.
I agree.
On an Adi football boot. Really well done. Lockdown was great. I really think that 2015 F50 Adi Zero outsole, pretty underrated, although on slightly softer ground, it was not phenomenal.
Yeah.
But just a cool boot, and it's too bad we didn't get that in more colorways.
I totally agree. I really like this, and I would definitely go and rock this in today's game as well. Just insanely comfortable once you break it in. Insanely next level slipper-like comfortable. Last one. Supremacy. Do you remember this? No, you probably don't.
I remember those. I remember them.
More like, we talk about all the T90s, and out of all the T90s, the ones I remember the least would be the Supremacies, because they, even back when they launched, I was just like, oh, that's a new T90. And then Rooney played in them and got injured, and it's just like, I like the boot a lot for having the whole asymmetrical look, so the left boot looked different, and it was really cool. It's just was never really like, what was the point? It came in between the 3s and the first laser, and it was just like,
Yeah, I think that was the boot that unfortunately, I think Nike generated some interest with the concept behind the T90 of being a competitor to the Predator, and that it was like a lighter weight, kind of slimmer, more modern style than the Predator. It was kind of just, I think Nike's view was like, oh, that's too bulky, it's too heavy. They're doing something different with the T90, but I think it got to a point where everyone's like, yeah, the Predator is just better. And then it wasn't until Laser 1 when Nike's like, okay, let's copy Adidas and go in this more extreme direction. And then that's when the line really caught on, right? But funny story about those. Just the other day on Instagram, I posted a picture because I was organizing the SR4U boot room. I'm actually doing stuff very slowly. But I came across
just looking for an escape route. So posting pics on Instagram. Great. Let me go and do that.
So I find these Supremacies. I'm like, oh, I forgot I had these, right? I think it was the launch color. It was the white, red, and black.
Uh-huh.
No,
that was the blue one. Right? Blue one was the launch color.
Oh yeah, It was like a tinted blue, right?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I remember those. Anyways, so I get these boots. I'm like, oh, these are really unique looking because they're kind of mismatched left and right with the way that they did the pattern, right? So I put them down, take a picture from like the top down so you can see that they're mismatched. And they don't look, I don't know that the design has aged all that well. So I post it, and after a minute, I'm scrolling through the comments, and someone comments, those look like bowling shoes. And I'm like, oh my God, they totally look like bowling shoes. And it's ruined the look of that boot for me. I always thought it was a really cool design. Now I'm like, oh my God, it has not aged well at all.
No, it probably hasn't. So, and I think Nitrocharge, if we should just round off with that, obviously the Adidas Tekkerz shoe, good riddance. That was one of the worst ideas they've ever had. Nitrocharge, good concept, decent-ish execution, but just not probably what the market wanted at the time.
Good boot that just never really. It's a concept that never caught on for sure.
It felt like a little bit. It felt a little bit like the the nemesis of 2013.
Yeah. And you know what? I kind of think Nike Elite Series as a whole, because I feel like when you look back at the history of Nike, I know they just tried to highlight it with Future DNA Tiempo, but I don't know. I feel like the Elite Series really got overlooked, and it was very overhyped at the time, because I don't think that all of the Elite Series boots were actually the best versions of them.
Not all of them.
Looking back,
I agree.
And tell me if you agree with this, I think the Tiempo was arguably not as good as the regular Tiempo.
Depends on which Tiempo you were talking about. Elite. 4 Elite was better than 4, right?
Not for me personally, no. I thought
really?
Jay, I was way more comfortable wearing the regular 4. I think that the 3, the weird part about the Elite is that it wasn't kangaroo leather. It was Kangalite instead, which just didn't make much sense to me. I didn't think that Laser 3 Elite was better than a regular Laser 3. I felt like it ruined the shape of the boot, in my opinion. I think the only one that was true, and Superflies were a disaster.
Are you telling me right now that you don't think that the Laser 3, regular Laser 3 is better than
I think regular Laser 3 is better than Laser 3 Elite. Yes.
Hey, what are you on about?
I played in both, and I felt better in the regular Laser 3. The only one I think that was truly better was the sole plate, the elite version of the CTR 360 Maestri 1 and 2.
I agree with that.
Those were better.
How can you think the Laser 3? What?
I don't know. There was something.
What?
There was something about. I feel like that stiffer sole plate, it requires a certain type of fit and feel to the upper to make sense. And I feel like when you took the T90 Laser upper and you matched up with a sole plate that really didn't feel like it should be connected to that upper, it just didn't make sense for me. I don't know.
I actually thought that Laser 3 became like wearable in the elite version, whereas the other one was just a tank. But I guess different preferences. You like a tank, so I guess that was perfect.
But I really liked the leather version of the Laser 3 a lot.
It was
as well.
It was decent. I didn't love it, but yeah, okay. Cool. So those boots should, some of them should stay forgotten, but a lot deserve some credit. At least the ones we got here. Probably the ones we didn't get was because we truly forgot them. So yeah, better let them stay in the past. But guys, if you have any other suggestions for upcoming podcasts like this, it's great to always hear what you want us to discuss, because then we'll gladly do it. You should leave all of your questions or suggestions in the comment section right down below. Now, if you want go, wow, English me speak very well. If you want to go and kill some of the boredom of all this quarantine lockdown stuff, you can go and either subscribe to Josh's SR4U channel, you should do that by the way, or his car channel called Car Problems, where he does a lot of cool stuff about cars. I learned a lot. Or you can go and subscribe to Unisport, where you can learn how to train at home, amongst other things, by subscribing to our channel over here. But if you want the best, the most awesome football boot thing in the world, go subscribe to the Boot Nerds podcast by clicking the white bubble in the middle of the screen, and I totally sold that super well, so please go and do it. And with those words, I've been JayMike, and I'm signing off. I approve this message. That was the worst outro I've ever done in my life, so I should go hang my head in shame. Yes. Hi. Wow.